Leo Hurwicz, a Nobel Prize-winning economist, observed that there were very smart, well-read and well-meaning people who argued passionately for opposing positions in the socialist debate in the 1940s and 50s, but they seemed to be talking past each other, not truly engaging. He believed that this was because they did not have a common framework in which they could talk about and compare various economic systems. He set out to create such a framework. The starting point for this framework is the economic environment, the givens of the problem. There are people who have preferences over goods they might consume, about how much they work, about what they like, etc. There are also resources available in an economy, such as natural resources or production technologies, etc. An economic system is really the set of rules for activities in the economy. And as people act within the constraints and possibilities that these rules create, certain economic outcomes will result. Socialism and capitalism and their varieties have different rules and will lead to different outcomes. One way to understand the socialist debate is this: will socialism or capitalism lead to better outcomes? Hurwicz made a fundamental contribution by turning this question on its head. Instead of asking what outcomes various economic systems will lead to, let's first ask what outcomes we would like to see. Let's decide what we think of as optimal outcomes. Perhaps we value efficiency, or perhaps we want to minimize inequality, or maximize total production. Whatever they are, start by describing those goals. Then, design a set of rules for economic activity that will lead to those optimal outcomes. This new design perspective eventually led to the creation of a very important new field within economics called mechanism design. The design set of rules is called a mechanism. Hurwicz created formal mathematical models that operationalized this new mechanism design perspective in very simple theoretical settings. The idea of mechanism design is meaningful on any scale. When the economic environment is a country, a mechanism is essentially an economic system. The free market economy, or generally the market mechanism, becomes just one of any number of possible mechanisms. But the economic environment could be restricted to a smaller community, or even the allocation of just one good, or perhaps even one object. Some of the most successful examples of mechanisms are in the area of auction design. The economic environment is that a seller wants to sell one or more items to one or more buyers. The goal, the notion of optimality, may be, for example, to maximize revenue for the seller, or to make sure that the items end up in the hands of those buyers who value them the most. A variety of sophisticated auction mechanisms have been successfully designed for specific environments over the last few decades, including radio spectrum auctions run in several countries. The mechanism design approach makes it possible and natural to compare the market and non-market mechanisms side by side. For example, consider a common allocation problem: assigning dorm rooms to students. In this environment, there is a fixed set of dorm rooms, and there are a number of students who have preferences over those rooms. Suppose that these are single rooms so that we can ignore the question of roommates. An auction mechanism might have students bid on each room and essentially auction off the right to each room one after the other. Of course, there could be a variety of ways to design these auctions. A market mechanism might have students trade their existing assignments with each other in exchange for side payments. Each room would essentially have its equilibrium price. A commonly studied non-market mechanism would have students submit their preferences over rooms and then match each student to a room based on those preferences with some goal in mind, such as maximizing the number of students who get one of their top 3 choices, or who get their top choice, or something else. The various market and non-market mechanisms could then be compared based on some accepted optimality criteria. Mechanisms based on matching algorithms have been successfully employed in a variety of settings, ranging from school choice to kidney donations to medical residency assignments. Matching algorithms are very important examples of non-market mechanisms. In summary, the debate on economic systems inspired the creation of a new field in economics, mechanism design. The problems studied in the mechanism design literature have been much more restricted than the choice of an economic system, but have led to very important applications.